Good morning again. Good morning, good morning, good morning. And I am very happy to introduce to you Dr. Wanda Whitten Shurney, who is an
I'm a
epidemiologist.
general pediatrician.
Oh, I
Mm-hmm.
thought,
That's okay.
okay, but one thing about it, she's a doctor.
For sure.
And she really emphasizes, and one of her major concerns is a disease that really affects our community, and that is sickle cell disease. How are you this
I
morning?
am doing great and I am so happy to be here.
Well, I'm happy that you're here, and not only that, well, before we get into what we're going to talk about as far as sickle cell is concerned, I need to know, were you born and raised here?
I was born and raised in the city of Detroit,
Oh,
Roosevelt, Durfee, and Cass Technical High School. I am a
now.
proud product of the Detroit public education system.
Wow, Cass, another technician. I
Hey,
always get my
75.
technicians
All right.
on here. And so you decided, when did you decide you wanted to be a doctor?
Okay, well, my father was a doctor.
Okay.
Okay, and growing up, people would always ask me, "Do you want to be a doctor like your dad?" And I would always say, "No, I don't want to be a doctor. I'm going to be a math major. I'm going to specialize in computers."
Oh,
I got to University of Michigan and took calculus and analytic geometry, and I said, "Oh no, that's not working." So then I took science classes, and the next thing I knew, I was at Howard University College of Medicine, and that was the best decision I ever made in my life. I turned down a full scholarship to the University of Michigan. Medical school to go to Howard University, and it was just such a welcoming environment. I'm a different doctor today because of that.
wow, wonderful, wonderful.
And my father graduated from Meharry, so
Oh,
he
did
was
he?
very happy that I wanted to go to an African American school.
Yeah, my cousin graduated from Meharry.
Okay.
And it was interesting the route he took. He went to Duke undergrad, went to FAMU for a year for I don't know what.
Okay.
After then he went to Meharry.
Okay.
Younger
Right.
cousin.
Yeah. I encourage that
Okay.
experience for all young black people.
Um, what is sickle cell disease?
Okay. Sickle cell disease is a blood disease. It's a disease of the red blood cells, where the red blood cells take on an unusual shape. They're shaped like a farmer's sickle, and they're sticky. Red blood cells are supposed to be soft and flexible, and their job is to deliver oxygen to all the different parts of the body. Okay, so now you're supposed to have these soft, flexible red blood cells, but instead you have these hard, sticky red blood cells. And what do? They block blood vessels. And if blood vessels get blocked, what happens? That part of the body doesn't get oxygen. And if a part of the body doesn't get oxygen, then it causes pain and tissue damage. So the last thing about sickle red blood cells is that they don't survive in the circulation as long as healthy red blood cells. So the red blood cells get broken down rapidly, and that causes anemia or low blood. Okay, so we have the pain, we have the tissue damage, and we have the anemia.
So with the anemia, because a lot of people are anemic,
Yes,
that doesn't mean they have sickle cell disease.
that's right.
Okay,
That's
I wanted
right.
to
So
get
there are
that clear.
lots of causes of anemia. And one of the things is a lot of times my parents, when they find out the baby has sickle cell anemia, they always think about iron, low blood and iron. There's always that association. So let me feed the baby more iron. But it's not a problem with iron. If you have a problem with iron, that's called iron deficiency anemia. When you have sickle cell anemia, the problem is that the red blood cells don't last as long in the circulation, and all the iron in the world isn't going to make a difference.
Well, how does that happen? How do you get sickle cell?
Okay, you get sickle cell disease from your parents. Okay, now there's
From your parents?
From your parents. It's inherited. It's a genetic illness. Okay, so here we go. There is something called hemoglobin. That's the red stuff that's inside the red blood cells that actually carries the oxygen. Okay, if we want to know if somebody's anemic, we measure their hemoglobin. Okay, so of course the hemoglobin is going to be low because we have sickle cell anemia, right? Okay,
Now, what does that count look like? Is
and that's a good point. See, okay, I don't want to go off on too many
Okay,
tangents, but
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna go off on this one with you though, because sickle cell disease is one of the few illnesses where people are severely anemic for a lifespan. And there's no real treatment. If you're iron deficiency anemia, you take iron and your anemia gets better. In sickle cell disease, the only way you can improve the anemia is with a drug called hydroxyurea, which I'm going to save for later on,
Okay.
and by a blood transfusion. Okay, but let's get back to how you get sickle cell disease, because that is so important. Okay, we're back to hemoglobin.
Right.
Okay, everybody has 2 genes for hemoglobin. If you get a normal hemoglobin gene from both parents, then from a sickle cell standpoint, you're normal. Okay, you might have asthma, you might have diabetes, but from a sickle cell standpoint, you're normal. If you get a normal gene from one parent and a sickle gene from the other parent, you have sickle cell trait. That's the carrier status. 1 out of 10 African Americans in the United States has sickle cell trait. Okay, now, if you get a sickle gene from both parents, then you have sickle cell anemia, the most common form of sickle cell disease. And what we say is, if both parents have sickle cell trait, okay, both parents have 1 normal gene and 1 sickle gene, then there is a 1 out of 4 or 25% chance in each pregnancy for the child to have sickle cell anemia. All right?
Wow.
Okay.
So do people usually check for that before they marry or have children? I don't think so.
I love you. I love that question, okay, because I'm going to talk to you about the Sickle Cell Disease Association of America, but one of our missions is to make sure that people are aware of their sickle cell trait status, okay, because most people don't know. Every baby born in the state of Michigan and every baby born in the country now is tested for sickle cell disease at birth, okay? And that's because we learned that giving penicillin twice a day would dramatically decrease deaths in children living with sickle cell disease. So we had a reason to test for it at birth. Now, in the Detroit metropolitan area, I'm the person that gets on the phone to call the family to let them know that the baby has sickle cell disease. And the thing, one of my major inspirations for trying to work on this problem, this sickle cell disease problem, has to do with the fact that most young black men that find out they have sickle cell trait, it's because they had a baby with sickle cell disease. That's how they learned that they had sickle cell trait, because they had a baby. I wish they knew ahead of time, okay? And I don't wish that they knew ahead of time so that they could have not had that baby. I wish they had known ahead of time so that they would know what the challenges were that they would face, and the family would not be shocked when I called them to tell them the baby had sickle cell disease. Because frequently the mother has to put down the phone. She's so devastated to learn of that diagnosis because she didn't even know that it was a possibility. And then there's a tremendous guilt that comes behind having given your child something that you didn't even know that you had. So one of the most important things that I want to say here today is that young black people, young people at risk for having a baby with sickle cell disease, that isn't just black people, and we're going to talk about that too, need to know their sickle cell trait status so that they can make an informed decision about childbearing.
How do they find that out, though?
They can come to the Sickle Cell Disease Association of America Michigan chapter right on the Lodge Freeway, right by Hartford Baptist Church, and we can do a free test and then offer them the counseling that they need and answer all of their questions. And also their family physician can test them, but you have to do a very specific test. A lot of young men think, oh, I went to my doctor once and he drew blood, and if I had that, he would have told me that. But there's a very
not if they're not looking for it.
Absolutely. There's a very specific test that you have to do to look for sickle cell trait. And it doesn't cause symptoms. That's the other problem, and that's another big myth. I have parents that'll tell me, they'll get up from our conversation and say, oh, my sickle cell trait is acting up, right? Like, oh, they're having pain or they're anemic from their sickle cell trait. And I try to tell them, you might have pain, but it's not from sickle cell trait, because sickle cell trait is a carrier state.
Right.
And it doesn't cause symptoms, and that's a part of the problem.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Wow. You've loaded me down.
Okay, I want to load you down some more,
Let's
too.
Let's talk about the mission of the organization.
Okay, all right. I've already spoken a little bit, but we have 3 missions. Now, the Sickle Cell Disease Association of America was founded, the national organization was founded with help by my father, Charles Whitten. So I always have to remember him and recognize him and be thankful to him and praise him. Okay, so and his mission, the reason he started the organization is because he felt felt that there was information that we knew about sickle cell disease that we weren't using properly, so that we could, better the lives of people living with sickle cell disease. And then he also founded the Comprehensive Sickle Cell Clinic at Children's Hospital, because he felt that children with cancer were getting comprehensive care and children with sickle cell disease were not. So
Okay.
now at Children's Hospital, we have a full-time psychologist, we have a full-time social worker, we have 2 general pediatricians and 2 hematologists, and we offer multidisciplinary comprehensive care. And I can tell you, having a medical home, we provide a true medical home for children living with sickle cell disease.
Oh, excellent.
Okay, so now here I am. I'm going to answer your question finally. Okay, about the mission.
Oh, that's fine.
See?
That's fine. No, I want you to
See,
take
when I
it.
get going, there's
No.
nothing I love more than talking about sickle cell. Okay, so when I get going, I get going.
Oh, go,
Okay,
go,
all right.
go.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, so here's the thing. The first mission has to do with individuals living with sickle cell disease. What we want to do is maximize their life potential. Not only how long they live, but how well they live. What is the quality of life that they're living? So we want to focus on problems that we can make a difference. We want to give them really good medical care. We want to give them really good psychosocial support. We want to give them really good educational support. Anything that we can do to better their lives, any changes that we can make, that's our number one mission. Okay? Our second mission is to make sure that individuals at risk for having a child with sickle cell disease know that, so that, again, they can make an informed decision about childbearing. And then our third mission, which you're really contributing to today, has to do with just educating the general public and providing free testing. So that's what we're all about. We're right on the Lodge Freeway, and you can come by and check us out.
Now, you have a walk coming up?
We have a walk coming up.
That's exciting.
It is thrilling. Okay, this is our first walk. Okay, and it's what we're calling an awareness raising and myth dispelling walk. Okay, now here's the thing. Most people don't know very much about sickle cell disease, and unfortunately, what they do know is wrong. Okay, so one thing that, and the way I'm going to explain this to you is that the people that are going to come on the walk on September 27th at the Detroit Zoo at 8 o'clock is registration and 9 o'clock is when the walk starts.
It's going to be in the zoo?
In the zoo.
Okay.
In the zoo. Okay, so we're going to have
I
a
live
big
across
rally at
from the
9
zoo.
o'clock. Okay, all right, good. So I know you're going to be there.
Lord.
Okay, so we're going to have a big rally before we start, then we're going to take off, and it's 1.3 miles around the zoo, so we're going to be walking. Okay?
Wow, it always seems so much bigger than that.
Okay, well, and if you don't, we'll have wheelchairs, we'll have carts, we'll have strollers, so
Oh,
we need you to
good,
come.
good,
Okay?
good.
But this is what I want to tell you about. I want to tell you about the T-shirts, okay? Because the T-shirts are all myth dispelling, okay? So one of the T-shirts says that it's not just a black thing. Okay, it's
Excellent.
not just, and the just is underlined.
How has that been emphasized so much that it's, black people get
Okay,
it? Yeah.
because in the United States, most of the people living with sickle cell disease are African American.
Oh,
Okay, now I have to do another one of I got to veer off for a minute, okay? And I have to talk about the fact that having sickle cell trait protects you from malaria, okay?
Wow.
Having sickle cell trait protects you from malaria. Okay, so wherever malaria is a problem, now the sickle gene came about as a mutation. So an accident, right? So wherever that accident occurred, if that was in a place where malaria was a problem, there was a driving force to keep that gene growing. So people who had sickle cell trait would live longer and live to have children. So sickle cell trait was the good part. The plan was for everybody just to have sickle cell trait, but the problem is if both parents have sickle cell trait, then there's a 1 out of 4 chance for a baby to have sickle cell disease.
Okay.
So if you have sickle cell trait, you're less likely to get malaria and you're less likely to die from it. If you have sickle cell disease, the double dose of the gene, you're less likely to get you're less likely to get malaria.
Right.
But if you get it, you're more likely to die from it. But that's the answer to why is it that most people in the United States who have sickle cell disease are black. Why? Because where do our genes come from?
Africa.
West Africa. Okay, so now we brought those genes to the United States with us. When we came over on those ships to build this country, we had our genes right with us, and so we brought them here. So you don't see malaria in the United States, but you see sickle cell disease in the United States because of the slave trade. Okay, and then you also see sickle cell disease everywhere else around the world where there's malaria, and then you see it other places because of different migrations besides the slave trade.
Oh, wow.
Okay, isn't that a fascinating
That
history?
is fascinating.
Yeah, yes.
That I never heard before.
Okay, so it's not just a black thing. That's the first T-shirt. That's the one I selected. That's the one I'm going to wear. Okay, because the truth of the matter is, lots of different people of color have sickle cell disease, and I have a number of Arab American patients that will be wearing that T-shirt. Okay, now our second T-shirt says, "My pain is real." Here's the thing: most people know that sickle cell disease causes pain, but this is a T-shirt that we're going to have, particularly our young African American men that go to the emergency room and get accused of being drug addicts when they're really in pain. So my pain is real. They get accused of being drug seeking or drug addicted. Of course, not 100% of the time, but it should happen 0% of the time. Okay?
Right.
All right. So now our next T-shirt is, or should I break and...
Well, what we're going to do, we have this little segment, but
Okay.
I think I'm going to hold that segment over till table talk.
Okay.
And so we could talk a little longer.
All right.
I have
Okay.
another show right
Okay.
after this.
All right. Well, just
So
let
I
me know
wanna
and we can
just
roll
talk a
however you
little
say.
longer.
Okay. If I get through my T-shirts, I'll be
Right.
glad. Okay. So I have another T-shirt that says, "Living well with sickle cell," because another myth is that everybody who has sickle cell disease is deathly ill. Okay. And another T-shirt is, "I'm still here living with sickle cell disease," because another myth is that everybody with sickle cell disease dies by the time they're 21. I had a patient that was waiting for her 21st birthday to die because she thought she was going to die on that day.
Gee.
Okay. I have a good friend who spent 30 years of her life waiting to die. She didn't start living her life until she turned 30 because all she ever heard was, "You're going to die, you're going to die." And at 30, she woke up and said, "I'm still alive." And she started living her life. And now she's 57. I know that because she's the same age as me. And she's living well with sickle cell, and she's still here living with sickle cell disease. And I want all of the young children to see the people with gray hair that are living with sickle cell disease. Another T-shirt is, "Do you have sickle cell trait?" ? Exclamation point. And it's in your jeans, and there's a pair of blue jeans on the side. And I want all the young people who come to the walk to wear that T-shirt, and then after the walk I want them to wear it around town so that people will ask them, "Well, why is it important to know whether you have sickle cell trait or not?" And
It's
that's
very important.
Yes. And the last T-shirt is called "Break the Sickle Cycle." And the real sickle cycle, if you look at the pathophysiology of sickle cell disease, has to do with the red blood cells lose oxygen and then they sickle, and then they block blood vessels, and then you can't get the oxygen, and they sickle more, and then they block blood vessels, and that's a vicious cycle. But there are lots of other cycles of sickle cell disease, and the one that I'll mention is the fact that sometimes kids with sickle cell disease miss school. Okay, and they get behind, and then they get embarrassed, and then they don't want to go to school. And so that can be a cycle of being discouraged and then getting further behind and getting further discouraged. And that's one of the cycles that we're trying to break with our program called Project Enrich, where we have adults living with sickle cell disease tutoring children living with sickle cell disease. We go to the home,
Excellent.
pick them
Excellent.
up, and offer them tutoring, a healthy meal, and yoga and Tai Chi instruction to help them with their stress, because we know stress has a tremendous impact on illness.
Right.
Okay.
Well, as a former teacher, I taught 39 years,
Oh,
and
wow.
I had students over the years who had sickle cell
Okay.
disease, and they did have to miss.
Right.
But they weren't worried. I didn't worry them about, "You'll miss your work," because I know that stress level
Exactly.
needs to stay
Right,
down. It's
right.
important.
And managing stress is so important for if you don't have a chronic illness. But if you have a chronic illness, it's that much more important because the stress can bring on a sickle cell episode. So we really want to help people to learn how to manage stress.
So once again, let's talk about the walk. It's September
27th. Okay, we're encouraging everybody to go to sicklecellwalkzoo.org. sicklecellwalkzoo.org. And you can register to walk, or there are just two buttons there. Well, there are three buttons. Register to walk, sponsor a walker, So for $25, if you don't want to walk, we can have a child living with sickle cell disease walk for you wearing one of the myth dispelling t-shirts. And then the third button is just donate. And no amount is too small. So click one of those buttons and we're gonna have a really fantastic time.
This is excellent. And does the organization have its own website?
Yes, the website for the organization is www.scdaami.org. That's a little bit more difficult, so that's why we came up with Sickle Cell Walk Zoo,
Right.
so that people can kind of remember it and go to that website and help us out. Yeah.
Yes, because if we can let these young people know that they can live past the 21s and the
Right.
30s
Right.
and everything, because there are a lot of myths.
There are. And the other thing that I want to mention is that we're all going to be wearing red. And you know how every time you see pink, you think about breast cancer? I want people, every time they see red, think about sickle cell. And the red represents blood. So we're going to be flowing
important.
through the zoo without blockage, because that's the problem. Sickle cell disease is a blockage problem. So we're going to flow through the zoo without blockage, because that's the blood to flow through the
this is the
bodies
first
of people with
drive,
sickle
so-
cell. This is the first one, so let's make it great.
Well, Doctor, we thank you so
Oh,
much.
and
I know
I
it's
thank you.
that time I got to
Okay.
move on.
All right. I
move
appreciate
on.
you.
And
Okay.
everyone, September 27th at the zoo, Sickle Cell
Walkzoo.org. SickleCellWalkZoo.org.
Thank you so
Oh,
much.
thank you.
And we will see you in just a few minutes, but we may start off with, I did an interview with a Dr. Levinstein on food allergies. And school is starting, and a lot of our young people have food allergies, but how are you able to tell? And so my interview will show that. So we will be looking at that interview probably just before Table Talk. It's just a 5-minute interview. Thank you. See you in a few.
Bye.